News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA, wishing all our customers a very happy, safe and joyful Christmas.
Cloudy tonight with rain moving north across the country. Heavy in the south with the risk of localised flooding. Minimum temperatures of 0 to 4 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
Hello there, you're welcome along. So we've got lots going on this evening. We will check in with Louise Quinn, talk to her about life in Florence. She's had an interesting year. Philippe Auclair, also on the football show, will give us his footballing highlights and lowlights 2020. Mick Foley and Colin Keys, it's a GAA State of the Union. Dublin's dominance is on the agenda, I'm afraid, Dublin fans. We gave you a whole bunch of Dublin love last night with Johnny Cooper and Kevin McMenamin and Desi Farrell and Philly McMahon. Now we need to have a conversation because we're not so sure where this is going. So the lads are on the way after 8 o'clock. Nathan Murphy, Dave McIntyre. This hour we'll pick out the stories which caught their eye in 2020 and much more besides. 53106, the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Nathan Murphy, hello to you.
Good evening.
So what's going on that you're not getting a chance to talk about later on? Did I hear, JP said Charlie Woods is rocking your boat the last few days?
Your thoughts on the Charlie Woods phenomenon. The golf season we thought was over, but this weekend the PNC Father and Son Championship was taking place in Florida. It's an event I think that's got a good rich history, but sort of takes place a little bit under the radar until Tiger Woods rocks up with his 11-year-old child. Turns out Charlie Swing and Tiger Swing are very similar, but what started as a sort of nice little Tuesday, Wednesday gathering, and everyone's a little bit intrigued as to what Charlie be like, and you see his swing and you think, that's fascinating. By Sunday, had got to Golf Channel, it seems, doing a minute-by-minute update on his round, had cameras waiting for Tiger and Charlie's car to arrive at the course, as if it was, this is the shot you see at the final round of the Masters, when the leader rocks up into the car park and takes the stroll into the clubhouse at Augusta National. That was the treatment that Charlie Woods was getting, and I just don't know what to make of it all, because this is an 11-year-old kid who looked like he was having the time of his life, who was out with his dad, who was enjoying every bit of the attention, spent a lot of time with Justin Thomas and his father, and feels a part of it and getting to spend good quality time with his dad, and probably getting to experience a little bit of what his dad has told him about through the years as to what the attention is like. But once you dip into that world of celebrity, there's no real way of getting out of it. And I'm just surprised that Tiger exposed him to that at such a young age. It's hard to see that he's just left alone now, that this doesn't become a regular thing. And more than anything, it sort of reminded me that Tiger's view of his childhood, I think, is probably very different to our view of his childhood, particularly from, say, reading that Jeff Benedict book of last year, where Tiger obviously has a lot of misdemeanors as he grows older. And by the end of the book, even though he comes across in ways as a pretty terrible, obnoxious, rude person for lots of his career, you give him a bit of a free pass because of the way he was brought up and what he was exposed to at such a young age, from being on television as a 2-3-year-old to his father essentially treating him as an adult when he was a child, to, sharing a room. We won't go into the gory details now, but sharing his room with his father when he probably really shouldn't have been. And from the outside, you would look and think, geez, Tiger would want anything but that for his child. He'd want to keep him away from any pressures potential. But then again, you have to remember, Tiger has never looked at his childhood and thought, actually, this wasn't the right thing to do. He's got 15 majors, worked out just fine in his head.
Yeah, I guess so.
And maybe he's right.
It is insane the extent to which the golf media are so reliant on Woods that when he pops up with little Charlie here, it goes from, oh, that's a cute story, to banner, headlines, news, lots of articles. I mean, I guess even, look, we're talking about it. I tweeted a picture of their swing side by side because it's so nuts, it's kind of interesting to people. But it almost crossed the line into then, legitimate story and like predicting Charlie Woods' future, and anything with Tiger just dwarfs everything else in the world of golf, and that was reflected in the coverage. Like, you go on to Golf Channel, for instance, as an example, as the main golfing website, I guess, in many ways. Whenever Woods involved in a tournament, if there's like 8 stories on the homepage, Woods is 7 of them. You know, it's like that. So it probably crossed the line into just, okay, cool, everyone chill out a little bit here. He's a kid. He does seem to be able to take it in his stride, little Charlie Woods. He seems like he enjoys it a little bit. It's hard to know with Tiger to what extent the, I mean, what are we even diagnosing him with? The potential flaws in his character, maybe as he got older, were down to either upbringing and Earl or the media exposure. I mean, I suspect it's more upbringing than media exposure. So, but I was a little bit, you know, this is a man who named his yacht Privacy, and you know,
Yeah.
he knows what's going to happen when he brings Charlie there. But they seem to have a good time. By Sunday, it didn't feel like Charlie was suddenly looking around going, oh, this is weird and there's too much attention on me. And I'm sure on his mobile phone he's seen it all. But I mean, the swing looks good, doesn't it? I mean, and he can putt as well.
You're part of the problem here. This is an 11-year-old kid. It is that reminder, that great line of Tiger doesn't move the dial, Tiger is the dial.
Totally, yeah, it was mad. And I mean, you brought it up in my defence, but if we're talking here, I mean, how many majors are we giving Charlie? 4, 5?
You see, he is 11, but by the time he's 16 or 17, people are going to be wondering what college he's going to, what sort of scholarship he's going to be getting. This is the extent of Tiger's fame. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that by the time Charlie gets to 17 or 18, he's getting invites to tournaments.
Yeah.
So the Tiger rocks up.
That's true. There'll be whatever happened to Charlie Woods articles when he's 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is mad. He does look good, though. Can we give him that? I mean, of course he would be. There's no reason why he wouldn't be, but he does look good.
Oh, the swing is perfect.
It's nuts.
It's better than my swing. And yours, Joe.
And everyone watching right now. It looks like Tiger Woods' swing, for God's sake. So yeah, I didn't watch much of it. Was it good? I was watching it on social media.
I flicked in and out. So was I. I didn't feel the need for considering the busy weekend of sport it was, to spend 4 hours on that, watching that final day leaderboard. Oh, the other kids must be like, dear God, what have I got to get? Padraig Harrington's there with his son.
Did he get a look in?
Got a look in.
And this is Lady Bird's son, isn't it? In the Open.
Yeah.
Yeah. All grown up.
What an experience, though.
Yeah, amazing. I know. So look, this hour you and Dave McIntyre are picking out your stories of the year 2020. So that is incoming. That's on the way. And then post 8 o'clock, Mick Foley, Colm Keys of the Sunday Times and Irish Independent respectively will be talking GAA football, State of the Union. I'm afraid, Nathan, item number 1 on the agenda is Dublin dominance. Have you got an easy solution for us?
No.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't even think the diverting all of the money away from Dublin to other counties is the solution, because there are so many other natural advantages that Dublin now have. And that is not, as always, which you somehow need to caveat this with, to take away from the achievements of this current group of players. But Dublin have done everything right, and everything is now stacked in their favour to continue this run of success. They may not do 10 in a row, but they'll do 9 out of 10. Yeah. And it will be this massive shock every time they're beaten. So splitting them 2, 3, 4, while it may seem a little bit still insane, it does feel as though the next 10, 15 years, something as radical as that will have to happen.
Because Colm Keys will be on later, very informed, very reasoned, very on-point journalist. You know, for instance, he thinks that splitting them is the only solution here, you know. And I got to say, you know, growing up in Kildare, the thought of Kildare beating Dublin North doesn't really fill me with ecstasy. You know, it really will take some getting used to, and may never actually feel all that good. Beating Dublin North, it's like your dad letting you win a race when you're a kid. I mean, you know what he's done.
I hear you, but I do. Maybe listen. I'm still a blow into Dublin. Maybe trying to develop a North-South Dublin rivalry is going to be a difficult thing. But the alternative for Kildare is they're just beaten by Dublin again and again and again.
Yeah, and
that is also quite boring.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. We'll talk about it after 8 o'clock. We should get on with the news round. Cathal Mullaney, hello.
Good evening, Joe.
Good to have you with us. So you're bringing us up to date on everything. We are here with thanks to Gillette. The news round is on Off the Ball on News Talk with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. So Cathal, these are grim times, and today brought more grim news on the COVID front and what we're all facing into. So where has sport fallen? Because the golf thing blew up in the last move to serious lockdown. So it seems like there are more loosening of restrictions on certain sports this time around.
Yeah, so I think they've gone with the line that it's level 5 minus. So golf and tennis will be allowed to continue under the latest set of restrictions. The government today announced a new suite of measures to help combat the spread of the disease. No training or matches will be allowed, with the exception for professional and elite sports, horse racing, greyhound racing, and approved equestrian events as well. Outdoor non-contact training will be allowed in pods of up to 15, and gyms, leisure centres and swimming pools may remain open for individual training only. So golf and tennis do survive this time. They didn't survive in March or April, and they didn't survive in November, but they're going to be allowed to continue now.
And gyms, leisure centres, swimming pools remain open for individual training. Nathan, this is tough, isn't it? I think we all battened down the hatches on the promise. Admittedly, I think we're all adults. We knew there was no such thing as a sure promise, but we battened down the hatches on the hope, the sincere hope of something approaching normal-ish Christmas. So today's news for a lot of people is really tough.
Yeah, and I think the constant drip feed over the last few days, and already the amount of people who have been impacted by the UK travel has been massive. So yeah, we had the 6-week lockdown. I think we all thought we'd get through Christmas, we'd get into early January. Maybe we have to go through another spell of level 3-ish or moving slightly up, but for it to be pre-Christmas and it to be so stark so soon, just at a time when it felt like there was a bit of hope and a bit of happiness getting back because of the vaccine coming down the line, it does feel as though it's going to be, I won't call it a grim Christmas, because if you're with your family and all the traditions can continue, it's fine. But yeah, there's this massive shadow hanging over everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, there sure is. You guess keep thinking about the vaccine is all you can do and try not to let it eat you up at the moment, but it's a massively disappointing day, I think, for everybody. So we're conscious of that this evening. 53106 is the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Cathal, football's on this evening?
Football is on into the final stages of the EFL Cup quarter-finals. It's into the second half between Brentford and Newcastle. 86 minutes on the watch now. Brentford actually leading this one by a goal to nil. Joshua De Silva has been on target there for the home side. High flyers in the Championship and continuing their good form. They're about 4 minutes away from a semi-final place. Later, Manchester City are in London to take on Arsenal at the Emirates in the last 8. The Gunners have been struggling for form of late, but manager Mikel Arteta believes his players have the fight in them to turn it around.
Well, this is what we want to use it for, and as well because it's a competition that we want to try to win. And now we are playing at home and we are one step closer to Wembley. So it's a really nice game for us to play, because this is the type of games that we are looking for through the season.
Manchester City beat while...
Sorry, I'll just on the Arteta thing, Nathan, this is very grim on a whole host of ways. The Burnley defeat, then Southampton draw, and then Everton made light enough work of them, and Arteta was reduced to almost explaining how, frankly, if you look at the XG and you look at the possession stats, the chances of us losing to Burnley were 7%. The chances of us losing another game were like 3%, and all this kind of stuff, which, when you're explaining you're losing, I mean, it's a dreadful run they're on, and it's starting to get worrying for them now. I mean, they in the same mould as Manchester United prided themselves on not being a sacking club. That changes pretty quickly when you lose a Ferguson and a Wenger.
Yeah, and there've obviously been questions about the club and the players' character going on for years at this stage, and you felt that maybe that was one of the first things that Arteta would address. But you see Granit Xhaka's red card recently, just the pure stupidity of it. Likewise, David Luiz is still making the same sort of mistakes. There's constant off-the-pitch issues, and they're very dull to watch. They are possibly the most boring Premier League team there is right now. Nothing ever really seems to happen in an Arsenal game, and that was embarrassing, pulling out them stats, particularly when he mentioned the Arsenal game, where, if anything, Arsenal showed up the issue with XG and the various different stats, because, the Spurs game, where the Spurs were 2-0 up, totally dominant. We're happy for Arsenal to have them. It was an insult to Arsenal the way Spurs approached that second half. Yeah. You can have the ball, not even in your own half. You can bring it to the edge of our area because we know you're going to be so repetitive, so one-dimensional. We can deal with this. So I don't think they're going to be relegated. I think they will have enough to see them fine for the season. But I honestly did expect Arteta, having won the Cup, having shown promising signs last year, that they would at the very least be right in the running for a Champions League place. So it's been disastrous. But he seems to have the support of those just slightly above, whether it's Edu and at the ownership. So the problems at Arsenal aren't just the manager. It seems to be right the way up the chain of command.
Well, today's his 1 year anniversary in the job. So, Carl, you were saying Pep's been talking about City. They haven't exactly been scoring lots of goals lately.
Exactly, and Manchester City hoping that they will refine their goal scoring touch shortly. Pep Guardiola's side have hit the net just 19 times in their 13 top flight matches this season, but the City boss feels Saturday's victory over Southampton could be just the boost they need to get firing again.
It's not about lack of rhythm, it's about momentum. Goals is something special, it's the touch, the flow, the score of goals, and now we don't have it. But I'd say we are closer to have it winning games.
There's a text in. Lads, what about Leinster Rugby breaking into two for the Pro 14? Their second and third teams are hammering the opposition. Thanks, says Dave. I mean, it's not a totally different comparison, really, Dave, because we're talking about splitting here as a last option. Like, I don't think this is first on the agenda. I don't think this is even a feasible, realistic option for at least 15, 20 years. You know, you've got to see how this thing plays out and let the generation fully pass through. But comparing it to a Leinster, I mean, there's an obvious thing you can do in rugby that you can't do in GAA, is that you can give money to the other Irish provinces or the other teams, and then they can buy better players. That's just not an option for counties around the country. They can arguably develop them, and I think the redistribution of finances has started. I think the issue here is population. Ultimately, what we're talking about is population, and you know, one of the problems I have with splitting, Nathan, if we're going down that route, I mean, you can split them. I still think they're the two biggest counties in the country. We literally will be asking for Dublin North versus South.
And I think David Hickey in his quite incendiary article on Saturday morning was making that point. So maybe it is two, maybe it's three, maybe it's four, but the comparison that's often made, and it's not just from Dublin supporters, is, well, you know, Manchester United's dominance didn't last. The All Blacks' dominance didn't last. Because, as you say, the teams around them were able to invest. And likewise with Leinster, if the RFU wanted to go down that route, they could ask somebody to come in and give 10 million quid to Munster and buy 10 of the best players in the world. That's simply not possible in the GEA. And as you say, the population, the numbers they're getting at underage levels, all of that is just going to filter up, which means like they can afford some dropouts along the way. They can afford some minor prodigies not to make it, because there's always going to be somebody of similar talent to step in.
Someone's calling you there.
It's not me.
I was looking, so if you were to split them into four, they would be 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th in terms of population size. They'd still have 20,000 more than Kerry.
No, they don't have the tradition though, will they?
Yeah.
They won't have the tradition.
I can see there on the screen. That was Dave McIntyre calling. He wants in now.
Live?
Yeah.
Oh, this because we're talking about the Dubs.
Yeah.
He's angry.
Yeah. That was McIntyre who called in. So that was Man City, Arsenal this evening.
Before you go on.
Yes.
What about the poor old Newcastle supporters?
What's wrong with them?
They have. When is the last time they won a trophy? The 50s.
Mm-hmm.
They won the FA Cup. They've never won a League Cup. They haven't won a league title in nearly 100 years. They're in a League Cup quarterfinal against Brentford, and they're about to lose.
Yeah, it's grim. Their team is still rocked with COVID, isn't it? Steve Bruce was saying quite a few of them were extremely ill.
They were, but they won 2 of the last 3 league games. Before the defeat to Leeds, they had actually had a couple of... And tonight, they still have a really strong team out.
Okay, right. And what's the latest there?
1-0 in injury time to Brentford.
Dear, okay. So that is live football this evening. Robbie Brady, Carl?
To miss out, Joe, on Burnley's festive schedule. The Republic of Ireland player has a hamstring issue following last night's 2-1 win over Wolves. The Dubliner is awaiting the results of a scan today.
And then FIFA, more good news for them?
Yeah, elsewhere today, FIFA has issued a complaint of criminal mismanagement against its former president, Sepp Blatter, today. It's been lodged with the Zurich prosecutor and relates to the involvement of former officials at the FIFA Museum project in the same city. Blatter resigned from the presidency in 2015 following a corruption scandal at the governing body. And then Brendan Rodgers has been talking as well. He has interesting words today from the Leicester manager. He's praised the work of Neil Lennon after Celtic sealed the quadruple treble by winning the Scottish Cup at the weekend. Lennon replaced Rodgers at Parkhead, but has recently come under pressure following a stuttering start to the new season. But Rodgers says people in England don't always appreciate how tough it is to manage an old firm side.
People sometimes down here think it's easy for Celtic or Rangers in that matter to win games, but there's not too many teams that can go out with the pressure that that you have at Celtic to win every game. So to then go and win 12 consecutive trophies will never be done again, I'm pretty sure.
So that is pretty much done on the Newsround front for this evening. We do have a competition for you. All this week we're giving away one-for-all vouchers, a one-for-all card, the perfect last-minute gifting option for family and friends this Christmas. They're available in post offices nationwide right up until closing time, which is 1 p.m. on Christmas Eve. You'll see a very panicked Nathan Murphy in there around 12:55 in your local post office, purchasing several. Tonight we have a €100 one-for-all voucher to give away, so to be in with a chance of winning, just identify our mystery voice. Oh, you're getting another mention here who says Nathan Murphy is a fierce man for not finishing the Christmas dinner.
He didn't finish it off like you would expect him to do.
Oh dear. Text your name and answer 53106. We'll contact you after the show. By the way, if you miss out tonight, we have a €1,000 voucher to give away tomorrow. That is right. So a grand voucher going away tomorrow evening. Cathal Mullaney, thank you for the news round this evening. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Joe.
Nathan Murphy, stay with us. Dave McIntyre is going to join us as well. We're going to chat through. Well, the lads have picked out their sporting stories, moments, lowlights, highlights. So 53106, if there's anything you feel we should discuss.
For all the hardship that he's gone through, for all the naysayers that said, he'd never